Welcome friends, it's Ray. Thank you so much for joining me today. In today's video, I am going to make several Mother's Day cards using this 5 stencil set from Crafter's Companion. I love this big bold flower. I'm not going to use the inks that came with the stencils. Instead, I'm going to use my own inks, and I'll show you that as I start to color. And this is the flower that inspired my creation today. This was from our garden last year. I've cut my 8.5 by 11 cardstock in half, and will use a half sheet to make my florals. I'm using my grip mat and just some corner, I'm going to call them corner catchers. I don't know what they're called, but I made these myself. But they're just to hold my paper in place. And it also helps me to position each of my 5 stencils. So that's what I'm doing here, getting that all down on my grip mat. Added a few pieces of tape to the top of my stencil, and this is because I'm going to make several of these. So I am using Festive Berries Distress inks on my first stencil. And then I will go through all 4 card panels and ink them with stencil number 1. And then, so doing this production style, and then I'll come back with stencil number 2, ink all 4 of those, stencil number 3, 4, 5. I won't show all of that on camera, but I wanted to show this first stencil just so you see that I'm doing this production style. Finished my 4th panel with stencil number 1, and now I'm bringing in stencil number 2, and I won't show it on camera, but after doing this first one I will do the remaining 3 panels the same way. So for stencil number 2, I am using Candied Apple Distress ink, so slightly darker to color in stencil 2. Have to be careful because there's a thin strip, actually a couple of thin pieces on this stencil, so I have to pounce around those versus, you know, just direct blending because I don't want to injure that stencil. So off camera, I will go ahead and finish up all of my stencil number 2 panels, and then I'll come back. And here are those 4 panels inked with the second stencil. Here, I placed a panel back on my grip mat along with stencil number 3, And I will be inking this up with Lumberjack Plaid Distress Ink. As with stencil number 2, stencil number 3 has lots of delicate thin areas, so I will be doing more pouncing than anything to get this ink, get full coverage with the ink, but not damage the stencil. Stencil number 3 has the base for the leaves. I'm going to bring in my Shabby Shutter Distress ink. Also going to use a few pieces of low-tack mint tape to cover some portions of the stencil so that I don't cross, I don't add green ink to some of my inked red areas and vice versa. And I do get a little crossing of the inks, but I'm gonna go with it. And that, because it's on the leaves, I'm gonna eventually show you how I disguise that at the end, or when I assemble my cards. I'm going to color the rest of my stencil number 3 panels, and then I'll come back with stencil number 4. For stencil number 4, I wanted a darker red color, so I'm bringing in this Raspberry Jam by Hero Arts because that's a much darker red for me, and I think it's going to add those darker highlights that we need a lot better than any of my distress inks, because I don't have anything darker in that line. So for the leaves on stencil 4, I'm bringing in my distress ink in Mowed Lawn to darken up the leaves. And here I'm just wiping off some of the red ink from my stencil before I start with my Mowed Lawn. And again, adding the some mint tape in certain areas. And here I did not fully like the direction of my leaf color, so I'm going to bring in stencil number 3 again and just apply my darker Mowed Lawn lightly, because I wanted the contrast between my light and dark to be a little more cohesive, if you will, and I like this much better. Because I had colored all of my panels first with the Shabby Shutter for the leaves, Shabby Shutters, I will go ahead and move to stencil number 5, where I bring in the fired brick, and then I will go back and fix all of my leaf colors the same way I just showed you, so that they're all cohesive, and then I'll come back and we'll finish up the cards. So once done with the leaves, I bring stencil 1 back in, and then I want to bring in my fired brick and just smooth out the overall design. I do that on each of my panels. I love how these turned out. I decided I wanted to add interest on my card base, and I am using my scoreboard to score 1/8 inch lines all the way down my 5x7 card front. So I just opened up my card base and started in the center at 2.5 inches, and then scored on either side a whole inch. So these are 2 inches of score lines, and it's hard to see this on camera, but you will see it better in my finished cards. I score my other 3 card bases off camera. So I have other videos, 2 other videos that show how I color the Crafter's Companion flowers. I will be sure to link to those videos in the description bar below. Let's talk in the comments. Let me know whether or not you prefer big, bold florals or you like more dainty florals. Off camera, I fussy cut all of my florals and the leaves, and now I'm going to bring in my ink blending tool and my fired brick and ink, and we'll just go around the edges to remove all of the white edging. And sometimes it's hard to get in the corners, so what I'll do is just take and pounce my blending tool in those corners to get those that coverage. And I will do the same for my leaves with mowed lawn. Next, I place each of my card bases in my stamp platform, and we'll go ahead and ink up my sentiment and stamp it directly on my card base. And I will heat emboss it with clear embossing ink. I stamp all 4 panels or card bases, and then I bring in my clear embossing powder and use my heat tool to heat set all 4. Now, because of the scoring, the front cover is a little shorter than the rear corner, so I'm gonna trim just a hair off of the rear. So now I am going to I have labeled the back of my florals and the leaves before I cut them out, just so, and I guess this isn't just really germane, but I wanted to make sure I had the same leaves with the same flowers, so I labeled them so that I could put them back together with the right main flower. And you'll notice that I left white on some of these, and that's just so that I can layer them or have a little bit more room to layer them. And then this is the picture. Let me get that out. Picture. This is the picture of the flower. Okay, and so this one I've labeled L for left, so I know it's going to go here. This floral is going to be positioned like so, but it's very forgiving even if you don't position things in the same way, as long as they look fine. It's the bottom. then they should be okay. And this is the right. Okay, so it's going to go something like that. I added foam tape to the back of each of the roses just to give it dimension. Next, I'm going to assemble my flower directly on my card base, and so I'm putting that bottom left down first. I used my rose to position it where I want it on the card base, and now I'm going to use liquid adhesive to secure this bottom left petal, and then that will be my basis for where to put everything else. So then I'm going to remove the release paper from my rose and then get that situated. And I'm not going to press down because I want to be able to place my other two leaves underneath. So I just positioned it. And then once I get these two leaves glued down, I will then firmly press my rose down. And here I got some ink on one of my card bases where I didn't want it. I used my mono sand eraser to remove that ink, or at least as much of it as I could, and then I'm just going to position my leaves in a way that it covers that remaining ink residue. So I will do the same on another card base. So I got unwanted ink on two of my card bases, but rather than throw those out and start over, I am just going to use my elements to cover those owies. So I wanted to leave this in to show you. I complete my other two cards off camera in the same manner. So here's the last card I finished and completely covered up the ink that I got over here, but I was able to erase that pretty well. And then this is the other owie I had that where I had to put my leaf as close to the right as possible and move my flower down a hair. And these two were fine. So these are my last minute Mother's Day cards. I chose not to add any embellishments, which is unusual for me, but just like the way these came out, and that texture with the scoring really made the card. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you liked the video, and if not a subscriber, will subscribe and give me a thumbs up. Until next time, good day, friends.